Oh, it's a good morning today. It's a good morning today. It is so windy. It is so windy that if you heard some of the wind activity and some of the rain activity that was going on last night, uh, it felt again. This is not one of those states where you get the real hurricanes. So it's all mild stuff. It's all mild stuff. But for somebody who's not used to that kind of power of a hurricane or a tornado that's going to take your house and just rip it off its foundation, then what we had last night was pretty up there. It was pretty up there. Our neighbors had these really cool things for the Chinese New Year. They had those really nice posters. Not this. This is just incense, if you will. You guys know incense. Anyway, I'll take a moment to say 新年快乐, which I guess means Happy New Year, but you could correct me if I'm wrong. And you could also make a video on how to say that and then post it in the comments. Link it up in the comments so people would know how to say that correctly. But anyway, I was saying there's our next door neighbors had this really nice poster with a bunny on it, because I do believe this is the year of the bunny in the Chinese zodiac. And so it was on there, but the wind was so strong that it ripped it off of their door, and it ended up on our door, which is further down. And also, you know how you have those electric panel units on the outside that have those doors that open so that the people can come in and check your meter or whatever every so often to check what's going on with the usage of, I don't know, electricity, gas, whatever it is that they check these days. I'm not sure. Well, if you don't have a nice latch on those things, they pop open. And when they pop open, and I've explained this a few times, sometimes the hinges are old, sometimes things happen. And so what could happen is eventually, within enough times when that happens, your door is going to come off, or it's going to rip off one of the hinges, or something bad could happen. So it's good. And I think this should be something that the HOA should do something useful. And considering we put so much money into it, I think one of those little latches is probably somewhere between $5, $10. And I think considering how much we spend on the HOA, I think the HOA could be nice enough to just put a couple of those latches on. HOA prices always go up, but you seem to get more. I mean, the price keeps going up, and you seem to get less and less from your HOA every year. I mean, they used to take care of the outdoor panels, wooden panels of your home. They don't seem to do that anymore. And I know that there's a lot of other, because I've been talking to people, and on other tracks, it seems that the HOA takes care of the exterior panels, wooden panels of your homes, but they don't seem to do that in our neighborhood for some reason. Anyway, so as I said before, Happy New Year to everybody who does celebrate the Happy New Year. If you know what this is, I said before, it's incense. But you get this at many different awesome temples around the country. And so with that said, guys, I'm going to start jumping into some technology, because why not? And later on, if there's time, got two new, brand spanking new packages. So I may get to do a one of those quad live things, unboxing things. We might get that done later on at home in the most hilariously disgusting kitchen in Irvine, California, Woodbridge. But anyway, we'll get that done. But before we get into all the cool stuff such as this and technology, I'm going to tell you a little story about yesterday and why I need to apologize for not doing the live stream. Well, first of all, yeah, we went to the temple, which is amazing. But after that, we went hiking. And after we went hiking, and during the hike, it was interesting. Because first of all, when we got there, we got to the foot of this really steep hill, and we didn't know the difficulty level. The difficulty level was not obvious because the signs did not say how difficult it was gonna be. So we got there at the foot of the hill. Another time we'd gone there, but we'd parked at the top of the hill. So we thought it was gonna be all easy peasy lemon squeezy, because at the top of the hill, actually, there's a sign up there that says easy. So we thought, yeah, it's easy here. It's probably going to be easy going all the way down. So, we'll chance it this time. We'll go to the foot of the hill, go all the way at the bottom. We'll park there, and then we'll climb up. Little did we know that when you get to about, I say, a quarter way up, it says difficulty level hard. And you're like, oh, okay, I can kind of see that. But we decided that we were going to be stoic and persevere all the way to the top. So about three quarters up. No, it wasn't really 3/4. It was just a little bit less than 3/4 up. One of the party decided that they wanted to stay back a little bit. They felt like it was a little bit too much. So they sat down, and the rest of the party decided to go up, which was fine. So we made it. We took a couple of shortcuts, and we made it to the very top of the hill. We were tired, pretty tired already. I was wearing my leg weights, so about 5 extra pounds on each ankle, which was 10 pounds extra weight. And it was all good because we'd gone up nice and slow and easy all the way to the top. But now we wanted to go back and find the one person that had stayed behind. So first we go down a little trail. We're like, oh, look, there's a little bike trail, because there's different trails. And one of those trails was the one that the bikers go down on. The mountain bikers will go down on. We thought maybe it'll connect up to the right one. So we went down that for a little bit, and then oh no, we'd gone down a little bit further, and we're like, oh, okay, this doesn't seem to reconnect to that main one. So we went back up, and then as we go back up, we lose track of our bearings. We didn't have a compass. We didn't have anything. The signs up there are not very, very useful in any meaningful way to be able to tell whether you should go left or right to reconnect up to the path that you went on. So we took a hard left, and we went, and we were like, oh, I'm pretty sure that the other person is just down here. So why don't we go for a little run? So we start running down the hill, and we go about, like, I would say 200 or 300 meters down, and all of a sudden we look at the place that we're at, and we're like, wait a second. This does not reconcile to the visuals that we were seeing before. This is not to be the same kind of track. We had this little ridge on the side that was a little bit elevated on the other path. So this doesn't look right. So we start freaking out. We obviously text the other person to say, hey, it's all good. We got lost. We'll be back at some point. And then we had the presence and the spirit to get together and then walk slowly up this hill, about 300 meters up this hill. Super tired by the time we got up, and finally we found our way back to the main road. And luckily we had remembered that on the way down there was this area where some kids had used, I'm not sure, knives or something, or sticks to put some markings down. So there were some engravings on this bit of a rock, so we recognized that bit. And then there were two puddles, one large and one small, where a bike had gone through, and lots of cute doggies had splashed and left footprints all over that. So we recognized that, and we're like, okay, we're on our way back. And finally, as I said before, we found our way back to the third person. And then we had to go all the way down this mountain back to the car. And from there, we went to have some amazing shaved ice, but I don't think I have the little map today. Anyway, I did a review on this shaved ice place, really good. H2 Go or something like that. I don't know. I will leave you guys a map on the famous YouTube wall that nobody takes a look at. Maybe I'll take a couple of minutes to do a video to show you some of the cool things that happen on the wall. But you know what YouTube does, right? Every time I do that, YouTube deletes all the audio. I don't know why, but it just goes ahead and it deletes all of the audio for some ridiculous reason. I guess, sorry guys, I'm getting distracted by all the usual amazing things that happen here at the spot. Anyway, with that said, guys, let's get into some technology, because this is what you guys were here for. I thought you guys might have enjoyed that little story of that pesky, conniving son of a gun getting lost in the mountains. Because you're like, you're so pesky and horrible. And karma got you again. Karma got you again. Anyway, so with that said, today let's figure out what we're going to do. In the last episode of Where's the Douche, we created the one, the only pipe stereo. Pipe stereo. Don't worry. There's nothing bad about that. It was just a stereo, which you got some cool plumbing equipment from Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever you get your thing. And like Super Mario, we built a cool set of speakers out of it. So it was pretty cool. Okay, so what we're doing today is the ferrous metal sensor. Isn't that cool? Don't you guys want to have a ferrous metal sensor? I guess it's probably like a metal detector. I don't think they have those things. Sometimes you'll have people wandering around the beach with one of those metal sensors. The metal sensors will detect if there's something under the ground. And hopefully I got this right, because otherwise I'm going to humiliate myself like I did when I did the other video about the crane. There's some kind of crane that uses magnets to lift things. And I said a bunch of ridiculous stuff about that. So hopefully that's not the case. But anyway, the ferrous, not the Ferris wheel, the ferrous metal sensor. Anyway, ferro is metal in Italian. So there's that. Anyway, so start reading and getting into the thick of things as we do. The plastic box contains a breadboard circuit that detects when the coil comes close to ferrous metal. The speaker produces a sound that changes pitch when the coil is near a ferrous metal. The coil of copper wire produces powerful magnetic field with electric current from the battery it is running through it. Okay, awesome. Steel is made mostly of iron, so your sensor will detect steel nails, nuts, and bolts. Pretty cool. So in case you lost a watch, in case you lost that Rolex, in case you're of high value man and you lost your Rolex in the sand somewhere, you can use this device to find it. Anyway, so ferrous metal sensor. In this project, you'll build a sensor that can identify objects made of ferrous materials that contain iron, even if they are hidden from the Ferris view. It works in a similar way to metal detectors, as both inventions use a magnetic field produced by a coil of wire. Your sensor emits a high-pitched sound that changes pitch whenever the coil is close to the ferrous material. All right, so we're going to go through this. Watch out, kids. This is going to be one of those hard difficulty levels, just like the hike that we did yesterday. Oh joy. So you're going to need about 60 minutes to do this if you're at home alone. But if you're in class, probably double the time. It says, beware. Requires hot glue gun, drill, soldering iron use. Okay? So beware. Do not poke yourself with something you shouldn't be poking yourself with. Do not burn yourself with something you should not be burning yourself with. Be careful. Wear gloves and Kevlar and visors and all that good stuff. That you need, like special goggles so that you don't get hurt. It says how to make a ferrous metal sensor. It's okay if you can't find any old CDs. Try to find something sturdy with the same dimensions of a 4 3/4 inch, which is 12 centimeters in diameter. The electronic circuit is housed inside a hard plastic box. Boxes of this kind are popular with makers as they protect components from damage. What you need. Baby, I've got it. Now, what you need for this box. What you need for this box from the toolbox: hot glue gun, ruler, wire cutters, sandpaper, double-sided foam tape, marker, scrap wood and clamps, drill, 13/64 inches, which is 5 millimeters. Just go with the 5 millimeters, guys. 13 and 64 inches. I mean, oh, that's going to be a fun one to figure out the fractions for that. Drill bit, wire strippers, soldering iron, solder, third hand tool, screwdriver. You're going to need a 2.2 UF electrolytic capacitor. You're going to need one plastic box at least, 4 1/2 times 2 1/2 times 1 1/8 inches, which is 313 times 63 times 28 millimeters. This ought to be fun. It needs a 10 UF electrolytic capacitor. You need a 47 k ohms resistor. You need a 555 timer IC, a 9-volt battery, a speaker, which is an 8 ohms for W. I guess that's watts maybe. Compact discs, 2 of those. I don't know if they still make those. Who knows? That's kind of like a, I don't know. It's kind of like a retro item. CDs. Screwdriver, material for handle is 10 inches by 1.5 inches, which is 25 centimeters by 4 inches, by 25 centimeters by 4 centimeters. Goodness gracious. Used tape roll, you're gonna need one of those, so that it's basically you're not using it for the tape, you're just using it for the roll. You're gonna need battery snap connector. And as I always say, usually the battery snap connector connects up to a 9-volt battery, but in one case, it connected up to the power pack. So that's weird, but anyway, that converts that power pack, which is a 2 AA battery power pack, into a snap connector. So that was like very strange. An 8-pin DL socket. You're going to need a 1/4 size perforated breadboard. You're going to need one of those SPDT switches and a 32/36 gauge enameled copper wire, which is 332 feet or 101 meters. That's not even as far as we ran down that hill. But anyway, red stranded wire, 12 1/4 inches, 31 centimeters. You're going to need a black stranded wire, 3 1/8 of an inch, which is 8 centimeters. You need, I think I said all the rest of the things. So I'm going to show you the picture in case I missed something out. And you guys are better at it than I am for sure. And you will make sure that you get all the items on the list below. There you go. So with that, let's start the exercise. How does this work? It says, use hot glue gun to attach the used tape roll to the center of one of the CDs. Make sure it is in the center of one of the CDs. You might need to do some markings in order to make sure that it's in the right spot, because otherwise a lopsided system is not a good system. Anyway, glue the second CD to the other side of the used tape roll. Then use a hot glue gun to secure one end of the copper wire where the used tape roll and CD meet, leaving about 8 inches, which is 20 centimeters free at the end. I'll show you these pictures one more time, because it's important to do so. It says using a glue gun. Just in case you don't know how to do that, you can go back to page 22 of this book, where they will explain how to use a glue gun. Whoa. All right, so part 4, which is wind about 400 turns of the copper wire around the used tape roll, then cut the wire, leaving about 8 inches, 20 centimeters free at the end. Just please do remember one important aspect of this is when you're winding it around the thing, don't just wind it around in one area. Try to smooth it across the surface area of that roll. So if you start from the left, roll it until you get to the right, and then when you run out of space, then you can roll on top of the wire continuously until you go, because otherwise this project is not going to work very well and the coil is going to look messy and horrible. Make sure you don't cover the free end from the step 3 as wind the coil. What does that mean? Make sure you don't cover the free end from step 3 as you wind the coil. I guess it means it doesn't want you to go over the part that you glued down of the copper wire. So if you do that, something bad might happen, or they might need you to do something with that later. So make sure you don't do that. Leave some space on one side for you to be able to glue the copper wire onto the thing so that it doesn't slip out. So leave about 8 inches, 20 centimeters free at the end. Use hot glue to secure the copper wire beside the other end of the wire. You should now have 2 free lengths of wire, 8 inches, 20 centimeters. Scrape away about 3/4 of an inch, 2 centimeters of the coating from each end of the copper wire using sandpaper. It says make sure the free ends of the wire face away from the longer end of the handle. Now attach your handle across the middle of one of the CDs with double-sided tape. Align the handle with the edge of the CD as best you can. 8. Open the plastic box. You may have to use a screwdriver to loosen the screws or simply pull off a cover. Following the guide below, use a pen to mark where the switch, speakers, wires, and wire from the coil will go. Pretty cool. It says there's I'll show you the picture in a second, but anyway, it tells you there's a spot for the switch hole, there's a speaker hole, there are coil wires, there's a hole for that too. And then it says to use one of those good old clamps. Select a drill bit suitable for plastic. Ask an adult if you're not sure. And drill 3 13/64 inches, which is 5 millimeters. You better use the 5 millimeters because 13/64. Anyway, holes through each of the markings on the plastic box. Okay, so you're going to make some holes for these things to go into. And I'm going to show you here the things that we just read right now. Was there anything else? Oh no, I showed you the wrong side. So step 4. Okay, step 4. I got that wrong. Step 4. Step 5. Step 6. Step 7. And that. And that. All right, friends. All right, friends. I was showing you the thing that I haven't read yet. That was great. That was great. So in case you don't know how to drill things, go back to page 23 where they teach you how to drill things. All right. And also make good use of a parent or somebody who knows how to drill. If your parents don't know how to drill, don't ask them. Go find someone who knows how to drill. Using double-sided foam tape, attach the plastic box to the handle. Align the bottom of the box with the edge of the handle. The hole for the speaker should be facing the long part of the handle. Cool. This sounds pretty fun. It also tells you to cut a black and red wire each 3/1/8 inches, 8 centimeters long. Strip the ends and tin one end of each wire. Solder the black wire to the negative terminal of the speaker and red wire to the positive terminal. Fun. Cut a red wire 3/1/8 inches, which is 8 centimeters long, and strip the ends. Feed one end through one of the outer terminals of the switch. Twist it and then secure it with solder. Okay. Then it says use the third hand tool to hold the switch while you solder. Always have one of those third hands available because otherwise you're going to have to do a Mark Reviews solder technique, which is terrible. and the solder might not get applied correctly. And things, if you pull on them later, may come off, which you don't want. So strip the ends of the battery snap connector wires, attach the red positive wire to the center terminal of the switch, and solder it in place. Leave the black negative wire free. Hold the switch in the third hand tool to keep it in place as you solder. Boy, does that handle, that third hand come in handy. So cut 4 red wires to 1/8 inches, which is 3 centimeters long, 1.5 inches, which is 4 centimeters long, and 2 inches, which is 5 centimeters long. Strip and twist both ends of each wire and bend the stripped ends at right angles. Feed the speaker wires through the hole at the top of the plastic box, then feed the free ends of the coil through the hole on the opposite side. Let's take a quick look here at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. I know, you guys are bored and you've fallen asleep already, but it's okay, it's okay. You can watch this later, right before bed. It'll put you asleep. It'll put you to sleep. So it says we're gonna grab this thing, which is, what do they call this thing? They call it the perforated breadboard, which means there's a bunch of holes in it. Do they have to call it perforated? Yes, because they had to use an Italian or Latin word to make things more complicated for no reason. It's just basically a breadboard with a bunch of holes in it. Anyway, push the legs of the 46K ohms resistor through holes 8B and 9B on the breadboard, making sure the resistors sit on the top surface of the board. You will need to bend one of the resistor legs down to make it fit in the holes. Turn over the board and bend the resistor legs flat to hold it in place. Use a small amount of solder to secure the resistor, then trim the resistor legs with wire cutters. Make sure the notch in the socket is facing this way when you solder it to the board. 8-pin DL socket. Okay, so there's a bunch of things they're going to talk about. Ooh, this is cool. This is an Adafruit perma-proto-sized breadboard. And we talk about Adafruit a lot. Some people call it Adafruit. Some people call it Adafruit. Just pick your fruit and be done with it. So it says that the 8-pin DL socket is going to go in the E7, E8, E9, E10. And then there's an F10, F9, F8, F7. All the pins they talk about there. Then you're going to need a bunch of wires. There's going to be one wire, which is 1.5 inches long, 4 centimeters wire link, and that goes in H9 and C8. There's going to be another shorter wire. This one is a 1 1/8 inches, just 3 centimeters wire link. It goes in the A10 and the plus 10 bottom. Then there's another one of the same size, 1/8 of an inch, 3 centimeters wire link that goes in A7 and 7 bottom. And then there's one more. This is going to be a longer wire. It's a 2 inches, which is 5 centimeters wire link, which is H7 and plus 7 bottom. So I'll show you the things that I just read here, just in case you hadn't noticed all the good stuff. It's right there. Okay, we're nearing the end of this project, guys. In 19, connect the other components and wires as shown on the breadboard map below. Again, solder the wires and legs underneath the board and cut off any excess. It is important that you feed the wires from the coil and the speaker through their holes before you solder them. So now we're going to talk about attaching a bunch of these 2.2 UF plus legs into the correct bits and pieces of the perforated breadboard from Adafruit Perma-Proto sized breadboard. It is a 1/4 sized breadboard. Anyway, there's going to be a copper coil wire that goes into the 10 top. And then there is going to be a 2.2 UF leg that's going to go into the J9 bit over there. That's going to be a 10 UF plus leg that goes in the C9 socket. Then there's going to be a 10 UF leg C that goes into the C11. The copper coil wire will feed into the A9. I guess you're going to have to feed these things through and possibly solder them in place. Once you test it out that everything works, don't do it before, because if you do it before, then you have to unsolder them first and then solder them again. So make sure all the stuff works before you solder it in place. It says positive speaker wire goes into A11. Negative speaker wire goes in minus 11 bottom. Did we talk about that? I think the 2.2 UF leg goes in the J9. I think we talked about that one. The 2.2 UF plus leg goes in the A8. The 2.2 UF leg goes in the minus 8 bottom. Negative battery snap connector wire goes in the minus 13 bottom. The switch wire goes in the plus 15 bottom. And then we'll just show you the picture so you guys know what that's all about before we move into the next one. Hopefully that is very nicely visible on camera. Thanks to our top chef, Tim. All right, so 20, plug the 555 IC timer into the into the 8-pin socket. 8-pin socket, I was wrong. When you have finished soldering, the small notch on the 555 IC timer should align with the notch in the 8-pin DL socket. Okay, so then let's push the IC firmly into the socket. So you're going to push those things firmly into the socket first, and then you're going to solder them later once you figured out that the connections work. Part 21 is stick a small piece of double-sided tape or foam tape to the back of the battery snap connector and stick it into the inside side plastic box. So, okay, so they don't want this thing moving around. So the wire should be just long enough to attach it to the side of this thing, so that then when you plug in your battery, the battery won't move around. That's the idea for this. I'm showing you the picture. This is the first picture we talked about. And then this is the one where we're talking about the snap connector going with the foam connector there with the tape into the side. As you can see there. Quite hilarious stuff. All right, so what do we got? We've got a few more bits to talk about here. The step 22 is use a small piece of double-sided foam tape to attach the back of the speaker to the outside of the plastic box near the hole through which the speaker wires pass. 23. Connect the battery to the battery snap connector and flip the switch. You should hear a high-pitched sound. If there is no sound, flip the switch off and go back and check the connections. Now, if you were aggressive in your workflow and you've already soldered all the bits and pieces in without checking, this is the part where you start crying and pulling out your hair because you're like, oh no, it's not working. And now I've got to get the soldering iron out and desolder bits and then check each connection until I find the one with the faults in it. But if you were smart and you didn't solder everything together, you still have a good shot at just moving things around and finding out where the loose connection is or the incorrect connection is, because you might have inverted something, and fix it. Hopefully none of the components have fried, or if they have, you might have to replace the connections or bits and pieces, capacitors or whatever that you connected up, and replace them so that the whole thing will work eventually. It says, unscrew the nut from the switch and push the switch through the remaining hole in the plastic box from the inside out. Secure the nut on the other side with pliers. This will stop it from moving around. Replace the lid of the enclosure. Make sure the switch is turned on. Your ferrous metal sensor is ready for you to find things to test. And if you're at the beach and you've lost your high-value Rolex, now you've got yourself a tool. You don't have to be the tool looking around without knowing where the thing is. Now you have a tool to find it more quickly, more easily. Anyway, most likely what you're going to find is this is a really good, fun tool when you're with your kids, and they might have one of those fun metal. They might have one of those fun can't stop saying plastic. Why am I saying plastic? Metal rings that you get in those like Mickey Mouse boxes. They may be wearing one of those rings that are metal, and kids are going to lose their stuff. So you got yourself one of these things at the beach. You don't have to do the work. Just give it to your kid, and your kid will go and find themselves that ring that they lost in the sand somewhere. So the sound will change pitch whenever the coil is close to a ferrous metal. That's the point to this thing. So I'm gonna show you. But in case you are a high value man and you want to learn something other than motivational speaking, you want to learn a skill so that you don't have to rely on everybody else all the time. When it's Christmas night and you can't call your electrician, then you might want to pay attention. Oh boy. Anyway, how it works. When your ferrous metal sensor comes close to a material containing iron, it creates a magnetic field with the material. The interaction between magnetic fields in the sensor and the iron metal causes a change of current in ferrous metal sensor coil. So how does this thing work? They're going to go through the whole explanation. The integrated circuit IC produces hundreds of electric pulses every second, which causes the speaker to produce the high-pitched sound. When electric current is flowing through it, the coil of your metal detector produces a powerful electromagnetic field. The primary magnetic field of the coil creates or induces a secondary magnetic field inside any nearby ferrous materials. The change in current affects the rate at which the IC produces the electric pulses, and that is why the sound of the speaker changes the pitch. And of course, I did all this and I read 5 before 4 because dyslexia is a thing. So the secondary field interacts with the coil's primary magnetic field, changing the amount of current flowing through the coil. And so the part that I should have read after was the change in current affects the rate at which the IC produces the electric pulses, and that is why the sound of the speaker changes the pitch. All right, I'm going to show you the picture because that was abhorrent. How do you say that? Abhorrent. Especially when you read the wrong bit first. And there you go. I'm gonna not show you the picture in the end because it's already obvious what this is all about. So, real world inventions, the metal detector. Yes, I said that. I guessed that at the beginning of the video, and for once, I did not humiliate myself by the end of it. So treasure hunters use metal detectors to find old coins and other metallic artifacts buried underground. Their detectors have 2 coils. One produces a magnetic field that creates an electric current in any nearby metal. That current produces a magnetic field, which the second coil detects. So cool. So when those high-value men lose their watches, or their fancy coins, then the treasure hunters of the future will use metal detectors to find them and make a fortune. So, lots more good stuff in this book that we can read tomorrow, but today may be the last day. of us reading the one, the only, and amazing book, The Secret Origin of Wing Chun. As we said, 2,200 years of training, history, philosophy, and development of ancient Chinese mixed martial arts. None of that garbage that you see at UFC, MMA tournaments. Anyway, this is the real deal from Yenkai-san Samnang students. And of course, the author of the book, Grandmaster Tom Wong. But also, big thank you to all the amazing people that worked hard to make this a reality and produce the pictures, basically the artwork and the writing and all that stuff, to make the amazing tales from the brilliant mind of Grandmaster Tom Wong become the beautiful book that this is right here. So, having said all this, let's start talking about, we left off over here with this cool picture of somebody being thrown across a room. I think it was Samnang sends Master Tam flying. So traditionally, a student chooses a teacher, but the teacher must also choose the student. With the approval of my teacher, Sifu Samnang, I later studied with my Desui teacher, Sifu Chen Yi Zhou, and became my teacher, Sifu Chen Yi Zhou's indoor disciple as well. Later on, the country designated all three of the teachers that I had studied under as national treasures. They were all, it says right here, national treasures. Okay. So in the first pick, author stands in the sidekick position at the old Santa Monica Pier in 1981. He looks a little bit like Bruce Lee, but better, I would say. Second pick, Samnang and author. Third pick, Chen Yizhu and author. Fourth pick, Lu Zikem and author. I'm going to show you the pictures that are right here. All cool stuff. As I get distracted by some more beauties. We'll just leave it at that because I get a lot of comments. Don't only say that the ladies are attractive. There's some attractive men too in Irvine, California. You can't say anything these days. Most people never even get the opportunity to meet a top master. Instead, they find a random teacher from an advertisement or article and start learning from them because the teacher runs their class at a convenient time or location. They might also have obtained a referral from a friend. However, most people do not know martial arts or have poor judgment about how skilled a teacher really is. As for me, not only was I fortunate enough to study under the legendary Grandmaster Samnang, I personally witnessed many of the fights that he took part in. Many times these fights occurred spontaneously and had life and honor on the line. As I grew older and became more skilled, I sometimes fought side by side with him. The experience I gained from watching my teacher Sifu, fight and participating in these fights myself showed me how our Wing Chun should be applied in combat. Theory came to life in these fights. In particular, watching how my teacher applied techniques showed me a much higher level skill than what my imagination could have dreamt. It set a much higher standard for me, as I realized that what I thought was the ceiling was nowhere near the top. I can see his teacher Yan Kai-san and his teacher's teacher Feng Xiuqing doing the same in their fights. General Feng Xiuqing also has many exciting stories that are beyond the scope of this book. Some of the details of his fights against the warlords, his battles in the Boxer Rebellion, and his triumphs against notorious gang leaders in the Sichuan province can be found online. It talks about page 277, but I don't think this book even has that. So I guess he is referring to someone else's book or something else. With the Yenkai-san Samnung training, philosophy of less is more, most of our students have been able to outperform other students, masters and champions that have trained for decades with just a year or two of training. These students are not masters in our style, but it shows that the theory of our Kung Fu works, right? However, the importance of training and understanding the philosophy behind our training goes beyond temporarily satisfying some student goals of winning. Instead, it brings lifelong benefits, including developing a better understanding of our health and instilling discipline, persistence, and determination. It also leads to a better understanding of our opponents and ourselves. As our ancestors aggregated what they observed and learned, they created the philosophical framework that they would later call Taoism. Taoism or Taoism. A life journey. A life journey. Okay, so I think what he meant here was 277, mostly on Chinese language websites. So if that's even legible, that's what he meant. So I once heard my teacher say, a real soldier appreciates peace. Likewise, there is more to Omi Wing Chun than winning and fighting. As readers increase their understanding of philosophy behind the art of Omi Wing Chun, I also hope that readers will begin to understand the balance of nature, peace, and harmony in Taoism as well. As students perform or transform from a naive, proud beginner that is only capable of throwing 50 punches and turning into a mature knockout striker capable of throwing 500-pound punches, students' perception likewise transform. After students begin free sparring, their objectives transform as well. Every change and every experience makes a person grow. The more experience a student gains, the more a student realizes what the student needs to do to improve. However, the more advanced we get in our training, the harder it is to improve, and the easier it is to injure ourselves or encounter physical setbacks. This happens, we often take a deeper look into our diet and health. So when that happens, we tend to want to take a look deeper into our diet and health overall in order to progress. Because sometimes you can just keep, grinding down, keep working at it. But if you don't do those simple things such as change your diets and take a look at your health and try to find out not the symptoms, but the root cause of the problem, because, Western medicine and a lot of other forms of medicine, they just treat the symptoms and never try to find out what the root cause of it. Because if you find the root cause of it, Big Pharma makes no money. Anyway, so later on, as we enter a more advanced game and strategize more as we fight, we increasingly attempt to find and compare different methods of practice. We also begin to look for answers to free ourselves and liberate both our minds and bodies. Afterwards, we investigate and try to find logical patterns in our collection of techniques and training methods. Hopefully, this ultimately leads to the understanding that there are two theories that lead to two unique ways of training. The Taoist way emphasizes infinite change and conceptual frameworks, while the other way maps out routes for practitioners to follow frame by frame. Regardless of the way that people choose Kung Fu, training is about self-improvement and experiencing life. Samnung Wing Chun Association. In 1989, the Samnung Wing Chun Association became the first Wing Chun organization in China to receive the official approval and recognition of the Chinese government. It was only sanctioned after the government conducted 10 years of extensive background research, including carrying out personal interviews of all the known grandmasters in Foshan and receiving their approval. Today, many young masters of Wing Chun have surfaced. It has been officially named a Guangzhou Wing Chun. Sum Nung's son, Dennis Sum, has succeeded his father as the head of the association. I'm going to show you a pic in a moment. But anyway, a lot of the principles that you will learn in Wing Chun or different martial arts, karate, Taekwondo, Silat, and you just keep going and going. All those martial arts forms, if you take some of those principles into your daily lives, that helps you it helps you calm down in certain situations. It helps you with a lot of things. Again, if you go the wrong route of martial arts, what they call the dark side of the force, right? The dark side of the force, you end up not being able to do things the way that you'd want. And what that means is, like if you guys are into anime, you probably know the Fist of the North Star, Hokuto no Ken, if you will. If you watch a lot of those things, you will be able to tell that there's dark side and there's the light side or the positive side of the martial arts, and how those stray from each other. But then towards the end, they somehow come back together. And the reason why that is there needs to be some kind of balance between those two in order for you to live your life. If you only one-sided, and you're only light-sided, if you will, eventually you will struggle in business and stuff, because there's some level of dark side, right? Some of the philosophers will explain that there needs to be some level of darkness in order for you to be good in business, to be able to do certain things, to be able to win in war, right? You need to be able to have a dark side. You can't win a war. I mean, you could win a war on paper if you are the people, but if as a foot soldier on the battlefield executing a plan, you will have to get your hands dirty. So what I was trying to say is, you can bring that martial art things, and you notice if you truly study Asian culture and stuff, you'll notice that martial arts is everywhere in their cooking, in their preparing of the cooking, in the preparing of everything in their lifestyle, from cleaning their house, from putting things together, as I said, for a meal. There is true artistry there. A lot of that is lost. In the modern era. But if you watch a lot of the cooking shows and stuff like that, Netflix, and if you watch a lot of the Netflix stuff that they do on preparing things in the Asian style, there's a lot of those there. You will see how they prepare the noodles, and there's some real artistry there. How they prepare the dough, how they unwind the dough, if they do it the traditional way. That's all kung fu. That's all kung fu there. And so, whether it's the medicine or whether it is the martial arts somehow seep through every aspect of life. And of course, in modern times, people don't do that anymore, which is why things are not done as well or as efficiently as they were in the past. So anyway, that's a little nugget there for you guys. I guess we have a little bit more that we can talk about tomorrow. But I showed you this picture. It is a photo taken in 1989 of the establishment of the Sum Nung Wing Chun Association. Grandmaster Sum Nung is the one in the black shirt sitting in the middle. The second person to his left is the famous historical writer and historian O Shuji, who was 103 years old at the time. Can't really see in the picture, but you probably can find this online. I don't know. Maybe just go to Monterey Park and ask Sifu if he has a closer picture of this. But anyway, some people, when they turn to 103, they don't turn out to look like prunes. unlike popular belief, if you take care of your health, you don't have to look like a prune by 103. You may look like a prune by 200 and something, but I don't know. I'll let you know when I get there. If I get there. Anyway, with that said, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day. That's all, folks, for today. If you don't know about this book, it is amazing. It is on Amazon. You can buy it on Amazon. So if you want it, you can get it, especially if you're a high-value man, because you've got all kinds of money stored up. So if you're a high-value man, you definitely need this book, because you've been watching too much of that UFC and MMA tournaments these days, which is a bunch of... We won't say it. Anyway, so all jokes aside, guys, get yourself one of these. Happy New Chinese Year. And there's a thing they say, like Gong Fatsai. I don't know. Anyway, my Chinese is horrible. Happy New Year. And I'm trying to make this last so that it becomes a thumbnail. The thumbnail with the most conniving, pesky son of a gun that you'll ever see. So go get yourself this cool book. It's on Amazon. And with that, I'll see ya. Take care, guys.